Okay, so we are recording season 2, episode 6 of the Corporate Critic. I am Reese Roberts, and we are um, really taking some time to organize resources for consumers. That is the reason why you don't see me doing very much talking on the podcast right now. Um, and I do have to sort of, make sure I'm not spreading myself too thin. The reason why I decided to make another episode today is because I actually had a dream last night, and the theme was about me coming back to podcasting so um, I can be more of service to learners and people who are looking to understand more about privatization, about self governing, self determination, and the things that are required as far as comprehension is concerned in order for you to be successful at it. Um, Being a person who self governs is a lot like being a law expert because, and it, well, I think it's interesting because to be a law expert is different than being a lawyer or attorney. um, it's a lot different because an attorney is more concerned with legal procedure, case law, corporate law, things that are in a certain jurisdiction that is not necessarily pertaining to everything that has to do with law. So, as people who self govern, it is our responsibility and our duty to understand all forms of applicable laws. And that's actually the reason why we're going to do this episode today. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about what it actually means to privatize. And we're going to talk about what it means, what it looks like when the government does it, and what it looks like when individuals or consumers do it, because we actually have a right to do it. And I'll tell you, um, governing is a service of the United States government. Okay, but any government essentially can provide the service. And if you don't want the service, you can do it yourself. It's the same exact thing as if I own a home and there's a pipe that bursts in my home. I could go to a public service provider who is open to the public and is doing business and can come to my home and can fix the pipe that burst in my home. Or if I feel competent enough, I can break open the walls, I can find the leak, and I can do it. Okay, so this is what we're meaning when we say self governing. It means if there is an aspect of my life or an aspect of law that the government is offering me as a service in my life, I can, purchase the service or I can make this happen on my own. So, what I want us to think about is the public exchange of money, the public exchange of currency or goods or services. Okay, it is private when we do those things using an exact form of exchange where we're trading or exchanging goods for services or goods and services. Okay. Now this goes a little bit deep because it does involve the use of instruments as a medium of exchange, but a medium of exchange is not a requirement for that. So we do have the option to go and purchase a service, which is a money exchange service from the United States government, which is what we know as financing. Whenever you are financing a transaction, what you're doing is purchasing a service from whoever is performing that extension of credit to you. Okay. So our goal to understand this, I'm going to simplify it. We're going to kind of step back a couple of steps so that I can give you another illustration of what it looks like when we say that there's a privatization going on. So let's just say that the federal government is using public funds, or let's say tax money, um, to fund the Office of, let's say, Housing and Urban Development. Okay. The government would be responsible for staffing the office, that is whatever branch offices they open up, the government would be responsible for that. Um, the government would be responsible for making sure that the salaries are paid, making sure that uniforms are distributed to the people who work there. If they're required to have uniforms, they would be responsible for paying the light bill at whatever branch office is available to the public. The government would be responsible for all of that because essentially it would be a public service. It would be a publicly run service. It would be something that the government is completely responsible for. Now, when the government says, I don't want to be responsible for the expense or the responsibility of maintaining this office anymore, I want to outsource this. I want to essentially privatize. So, what the government will do is they will shut down that office for a moment. And what they'll start doing is looking for contractors. They'll come and say, okay, well, we don't want to run the HUD office anymore. So we're going to look for companies, we're going to look for businesses that we can hire to run the office for us because this is too much of a headache. We just, like I said, if the pipe burst in your house and it's too much of a headache for you, you go and find a business, you go and find a service provider. And they come in your house, they look for the pipe, they bust down the walls, um, and they are providing a service to you to take care of the headache that you no longer want to deal with. Okay. And so this is what happens. The government, let's just say, they find a contractor, they hire my business, and they say, well, Reese Roberts, this office is designed to monitor the housing industry. Okay. Whenever someone leases or purchases a home, we want to make sure that that the process is compliant with that person's rights. So I come in and I say, okay, well, let me know what you want me to do. Okay, my company is fully capable. I want you to kind of show me the ropes. Let me know what the rights are. Let me know what I have to check for. Let me know what job you would like for me to do because I am your contractor. I am not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a civil rights activist. I don't know nothing about the laws. All I know is that you're hiring me to run the office that is designated to monitor this industry for the rights of the people who are participating in the industry. So the government says, okay, Serv Inc. is supposed to check applications, check leases for A through Z. And I want you to make sure that all of these checkpoints are hit. And, these are the things that you're going to promote. I want you to let people know that this is what it's supposed to look like when they go to acquire a home or a dwelling for resident purposes or for private residence. So I said, okay, great. I got the checklist. I'm going through the manual. I'm looking at the handbook that the government gave me. Again, I'm not looking at any laws because I'm not being hired to be an attorney. I'm not being hired to be a civil rights activist or to learn any laws. I'm looking at the manual that was given to me. And so I am now in charge of a government funded office, but it is not run by the government. It has nothing to do with legislation. It has nothing to do with rights. It has nothing to do with any of that. The only thing I'm doing is contracting for a job. Okay. Many of our government offices are being run in the same way that I just described. Okay. Um, and then many times, even if it is still sponsored by the government or paid by the government, um, they're still just going off of a manual that was written without necessarily a full application of what law is applicable in that circumstance for whatever industry that office is running. So if we go into any industry, okay, consumer protection is not necessarily like let's just say we have an office of consumer protection and we say, well, you know, my rights were violated. I have a right to go to the bank and sign off on my promissory note as an endorser. I have a right to do that because this is my promissory note. I don't have to give it away. I don't have to generally deposit. I can special deposit. If that is not written in this manual, then a lot of times the law does not matter because a corporation is going off the manual. A corporation is going off of what they've been hired to do. Okay. So, in many cases, this is what we see. And the reason why Serv Inc. is organized to step in and monitor what types of laws and transactions are coming out of the manual that is being followed, coming from a corporate law standpoint, whereas if I'm a corporation and I write a manual and I say these are my bylaws, this is my corporate law. This is the expression of a corporate law because I am saying that these are my bylaws. These are the things that I have created that govern my organization. And that's all it's applicable to is my organization. Okay. And so where we see a bylaw, we do not see law, all applicable laws. A bylaw is the lowest, okay, form of law. You have an entire body of law that supersedes and governs over a corporate manual or bylaw. And this is the reason we have a lot of resistance and sort of adversarial controversy when we come to a corporation and we say, my rights supersede your manual. And it's extremely frustrating for consumers who want to supersede the manual because we have a corporation that is set up as a gatekeeper to the resources that we need to survive. So we get into this sort of tug of war where we have to negotiate our rights, which really are not negotiable. We have to go into these sort of litigations or adjudications where we walk into a corporate office and they're really supposed to be upholding all applicable laws. They're supposed to be complying with laws that don't really have anything to do with legislation either. These are natural common laws that we're looking to afford ourselves by expressing them. But what happens when we have a privatized government service, okay, where it's not necessarily um, being provided by the government. It's not necessarily being provided by anyone who has anything to do with legislations that are supposed to be sort of checking and protecting the rights of the people. What do we do? Well, this is where we start saying, okay, now I'm going to privatize. And again, there's a difference between the government privatizing a service versus an individual privatizing what they actually need from the government. Okay, if I say that I'm no longer going to go and allow the government to tell me what type of food is safe for me and my family, or I should say, my family and I to consume. I'm not going to allow the government to provide that as a service for me any longer because I'm not satisfied with the service. I don't think that the United States is doing a good job of monitoring and protecting my right to eat food that is real, food that is healthy, food that is not toxic or poisonous to my internal systems, lowering my immune system and causing, health issues, chronic health issues. So I'm not going to participate in any part of that system anymore. I'm going to do my best to shop locally. I'm going to do my best to order my groceries from places where I trust what they're doing, or I'm going to fully privatize and I'm going to go to my backyard. I'm going to plant seeds in the ground that I got from a place that I trust this seed to be real because it is that deep. Okay, that the quality of even the seeds that we're using to grow our food, it can be questionable. So we go as far as we need to go to take it into our own hands. Okay, that's what it looks like for a person to privatize. Now, um, there's this there's a there's a difficulty, okay, when it comes to privatizing as an individual, because there are some things, like I said a few seconds ago or minutes ago, that many of the aspects of our lives are they have gatekeeping. Okay, we have a significant problem with resources that are supposed to be natural at the disposal of natural people, but there's gatekeeping that naturally, well, I should say effectively, is keeping us away from the things that we need to survive. And so the act of privatization for a natural person can be complicated. It can be something that um, gets us in trouble. Like, for example, when we want to privatize our right to travel, and we don't want to any longer do any business or contracting with the state to operate our own private property, um, to travel from point A to point B. We have a corporation that believes their bylaw supersedes our right to travel. So when we challenge that, they put us in handcuffs and haul us off to jail. And so we get fines. Okay, we have these probations, we have real issues when we're looking to say, you know what, I think that I want to determine for myself how I'm going to uh, maintain my liberties, okay, my natural rights, my right to self-determine. So what do we do? What does it look like? How do we get ourselves to a point where we say my administration now is private? Let's get into it. um, mm, Consumers have a special way to come up with our own little manual. This can be enforced on a transactional basis. Okay, so the first thing I want to say, and in my experience as a practitioner, someone who is like a document preparer, I assist people when they need to understand about their right to self govern. I help people to construct claims. I help people to sort of understand the laws that undergird their ability to do what they want to do, and help them to sort of package it up and deliver it to a corporation so that they can have their own little, laws, their own little um, expression of laws. So that way you put yourself on more of a even playing field when it comes to interfacing with a government that says that they are providing a service to you. As a person who is hiring the government, okay, if I'm hiring you, I'm telling you what to do. Same thing in the example that I gave, where if the government is hiring my organization to run one of their offices, I'm not telling the government what I'm going to do when I get there. They're telling me what to do. It's the same situation if I hire the government. Okay. If I hire the government to do something for me, I have a right to interface with my little bylaws. Okay. So how do consumers do this? How do we get into the game and say that I want to interface with you? Again, this is not, I'm not stating this like it's easy. Okay. I'm not saying this like you can do this just willy-nilly, and like it's there, you won't meet any controversy or resistance. There's a likelihood, a good chance that you will, but conceptually and lawfully you have a right to do so. So how do you do it? Okay, how do you get this? It's called an expression of law. Okay, when you, let's say for example, enter into a transaction and a corporation hands you a contract and they say, this is your, let me see, they say, this is your contract. Um, you can review it. I want you to sign it, and then we can go into business. Okay. There are two elements here that I think all consumers need to remember and implement as much as you like whenever you're ready to sort of negotiate the terms of an agreement. First things first, your manual or your bylaws are your affidavits or any other expression of law. So let's just say you go into a contract and you want to add your own terms. There are things, okay, there are several things actually. You have um, an affidavit can be considered an exhibit or an addendum. Contracts can have what's called riders, a rider like riding a horse. So you can have a rider, an addendum. You can also have an, ooh, what is this word on the tip of my tongue? Allonge, 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 kind of like Solange. But you can have an allonge. Okay, you can also present exhibits if you need to, if you're talking about something more like a um, complaint. Okay, if you're doing a complaint, you typically will have exhibits. Okay, but when you're ready to express your law interfacing as a corporate entity that is, doing business with another contracting corporation, this is how you enter. This is how you appear. Okay, you express and you say, um, when I come to purchase this house, and like I said, that's the first element is your expression. Okay. The second element is the enforcement of your expression. All right. So let's just say you come in and you say, this is my affidavit. These are my exhibits, my memorandum of law. You can also use a memorandum of law as an exhibit. This is my addendum, my rider. This is my attachment, okay, to the original agreement. These are the laws that I would like to express in order to protect my interests in this transaction. Okay. And let's say the corporation is like, well, I see that you want to endorse this note. Well, I had an intention to take it for my own endorsement. So I'm going to deny you that. I'm going to tell you we can't approve this application. We can't do this because behind the scenes, they're not going to speak this to you. But behind the scenes, I can't do that because my corporate manual that has nothing to do with law tells me that I can't approve this because I'm going to endorse this note. So you can't endorse it because if you endorse it, then my intention to take your interest as if you're giving it to me as a gift or a donation or some voluntary grant, it's going to undermine my ability to steal from you legally, lawfully. Because if you change this and you say that you want to do it again, it takes my ability to do it. So I can't allow you to make this change. Now here's where you enforce. Here are your enforcements. You can use your affidavit, okay, to basically compel a rebuttal. Okay. If anything that you've written in your affidavit is prohibited by law, it can be rebutted with a law. Okay. So, what you want to do is you get into enforcement mode and you serve the affidavit on the registered agent to compel that rebuttal. Give me just a second. Okay. You compel that response. You let them know that this is your right, that you're not gifting or granting anything to the company, and that your right to perform your obligation in a specific way cannot be dictated. Okay, this is not a dictatorship. You have the right to self determine not only your citizenship, but also your duties, your obligations to perform a specific task and how you want to perform on that duty. If I say that I have an obligation to make sure that the kitchen is clean, okay, and I go in there and I say that I want to wash the dishes first versus sweeping the floor. There is not a person that will come in and say, or a person wouldn't have the right to come in and say, well, I want you to do it this way first. I want you to perform your obligations. No, the only obligation is that I clean the kitchen. That's it. There is no stipulation as to how I do that. If I walk away and that kitchen is clean, then my duty is performed. It's the same thing in any transaction. And I want to sort of iterate here and reiterate that we do not have any obligation to file documents to establish these rights, to establish that I'm not a US citizen. We don't have to establish citizenship in order to perform obligations in commerce, if that makes any sense. Performing obligations in commerce is an exclusive. Oh, what are the words I want to put together for that? When we perform our obligations, again, the right to self determine inside of that transaction is wide open. It is wide open. There is not a person or corporation that can come and tell you that if you have an obligation to pay, that you have to pay it out of pocket, that you have to pay it with that kind of note and not this kind of note. There is no stipulation under any law, under any legislation whatsoever as to how you meet the obligation to pay. I saw something interesting on Amazon from a seller called the Law Group or the Law Store, excuse me. It's called the Law Store, and they have an affidavit of payment that you can purchase. It was like $15. I think I'm going to purchase it so I can see what it says. Um, and it says that you have. Let me make sure that one. Yep. Okay. It says that in concept, what it said to me was that if I have endorsed or tendered an instrument, and it is nothing about that instrument is prohibited by law, then I have tendered a payment. And when I submit an affidavit or a memorandum of law by affidavit, and it cannot be rebutted by any form of law, okay, I have performed my obligation to pay. There are some other um, methods that I see in my, just kind of perusing these consumer protection streets, um, where you have accord and satisfaction. But here's the PSA, okay? Here's the public service announcement to corporations who may be listening to this. If maybe you're an executive or you work somewhere where you might be in charge of remittances, correspondences, cases, claims, when you see something that does not fall into your corporate bylaws or your policy or your manual, it would behoove you to check the law because typically when a person is submitting these instruments or these claims or remittances or these, sort of unconventional forms of tendering payment, they are also providing the laws that allow them to do it. And I think it's just of the utmost importance for corporations that are getting into, um, well, I should say, corporations that are serving the public to allow yourselves to be educated outside of your manual. The manual is not a superior form of law. And many times it doesn't even consider the law, it doesn't even consider the rights of the people who are protected as you are more than likely operating in a regulated industry. Okay, being inside of a regulated industry is is something that I think corporations should respect more than they do. They believe that their manual is the regulation of their entity. But if there are superior laws that supersede that manual, then you by no means have an exclusive right to determine how you will provide a service. You have some elements, okay, of authority or discretion that you can use, but that's very limited when it comes to the rights, the expressed rights of a consumer who is looking to participate in commerce. Okay, commerce itself is a regulated industry. So if you are especially participating in financing, and these are the bigger corporations that are publicly traded or ones that are participating in finances or financing, As financial institutions, you are regulated no matter how big or small you are. And you're not just regulated by your policy, you are regulated by the commercial code, which typically stipulates what people can do to pay you. Okay, it stipulates very clearly what people can do to pay you if you are participating in a financing type of transaction. You do not have a right to restrict a person any further than the prohibited sections of law, or the sections of law that prohibit certain behavior. You cannot prohibit a consumer further than what the law prohibits. And because then at that point, it constitutes discrimination. At that point, um, you're damaging a person if you are restricting their rights that they are enforcing based on what they know about the law. So I think as I develop my business, and I'm going to say this because, again, the corporate critic is really um, my way of explaining the value of what I do and explaining to corporations and businesses that when we start to present these claims on a more massive scale, because that is the intention of our organization and many organizations, when we start to kind of present these laws on a grander scale, what you're going to see here, what you're going to see is damages. And I'm trying to say this in a way that is non-threatening, but I don't know if there are many ways that I could say it that it doesn't necessarily come off that way. Um, Consumers have the ability to cripple an industry or completely eliminate an industry. Consumers have the ability to determine who will survive and thrive and who will just be completely eliminated from the playing field when it comes to who's doing business with consumers. Give me just a second. And so, what I want to do with the information, because the mission of our organization is to collect data, okay, from consumers about how corporations are doing business with consumers so that we can find out the discrepancies between the corporate manual that's being used as a sort of novelty form of regulating transactions versus the legislation that is supposed to be governing those transactions. We are taking an interest in the difference between the two. Okay. Because where we see legislation, okay, commercial controls on these transactions, and they're not being upheld by any corporation. Um, our goal is to either come to an agreement where consumers can exercise their rights, or we create a sort of claiming against that particular company that refuses to comply. Let's say, for example, we're talking about a bank. If you look at bank regulations, bank examinations, and how the comptroller is charged with control, a part of a bank's considerations whenever they are doing business with the community is risk. Banks are always concerned with risk. This is something that will get the interest of any banking institution. What are the risks? And I'll tell you, there are a few different forms of risk, but I'm going to focus on one that I think consumers have the power for any banking or financial institution when it comes to uh, regulation and when it comes to, like I said, whether or not that institution is going to survive and thrive. Okay, and that risk is called reputation risk. Reputation risk. Now, some banks might laugh at that and say, reputation risk, we have PR, we have public relations that can keep our reputation clean. Whenever somebody says, oh, Navy Federal Credit Union is discriminating against Black borrowers who want to purchase a home, Navy Federal's PR person comes and they start writing out a script and they say, oh no, Navy Federal would never discriminate against Black people. We are doing everything we possibly can to make sure that Black people in communities are housed and comfortable and receiving the best rates in underwriting. Okay. And secure. Okay. But reputation, it goes a little deeper than that. What the PR person might have the ability to express or articulate whenever there's data that's coming from a privatized source, someone that has an indiscriminate view of data. So the type of information that we collect comes from public and private sources. So there's no rebuttal possible if a person if Serv Inc. steps into a transaction, and this is something that I want corporations and consumers to understand, is that people lie, okay, but numbers don't. Numbers and data, okay, you can manipulate data in certain circumstances to see certain things, but when you get to a certain level of imperial knowledge, imperial data, okay, this is not um it's not something that can be veiled. It can't be cloaked. Okay. So the PR on certain levels will not work because data, especially when it's coming from the people that are making the claims, there wouldn't be any purpose of your PR person coming to the front and saying, we would never do that. And the reason why that is because if you say you would never do that, but you're talking to the people that you did it to, okay, it becomes a mute point. There's no reason for you to do that any further. There's no reason for you to make those claims. Okay, when you're talking directly to the people that you've done it to. So our role is just okay to aggregate that data, to bring it into a database so that when we go to make these claims, we can't be convinced of some sort of explanation, okay, or some sort of you know um, smoke and mirrors explanation as to why this happened, or the fact that you're going to claim that you're not liable. We have ways that in the evolution of man, and this is going to get a little bit esoteric, but in the evolution of man, okay, corporations are new. This is something that is a commerce and bringing commercial maritime law onto land is not something that has been done since ancient times. Okay, so we all should know that the continuance of evolution can easily revert back to what worked, because essentially if corporations are not going to provide a service that is benefiting people, people will eventually evolve away from it. This is what it means when a plant or a vine, okay, will always go towards the light that is feeding it the photosynthetic nutrients that it needs in order to continue to grow. Humans are that same organic matter. We're always going to be seeking the preservation of life. And you better bet your bottom dollar that if your corporation is standing in the way of the photosynthetic nature of us seeking nutrients and survival, you will either be omitted, it will go around you to figure out a way to do what we need to do without you. Okay. Or you will be eliminated completely. Okay. And that's just life. That is the self preservation of life. These corporations that are buying up all the houses, you know, um, corporations that are making it hard for people. You see people living on the streets because of corporate activity, taking away the basic forms of survival for human life to continue to thrive um, in ways that are natural. You might get away with that for a period of time, but my hope is that any corporation that understands um, purpose, understands a mission, understands what service actually is, that you would seek out a mutually beneficial way to do business. Because if you don't know, you're going to F around and find out. Okay. Mother Nature is not here to play corporate games. Mother Nature is not here to obey your bylaws. Okay. Mother Nature doesn't care about the fact that either you have not read the laws to understand how they must be applied, or you are intentionally violating those laws for your own private gain. That's neither here nor there because consumers don't care. Consumers don't care that you're trying to get over on them by lying because consumers can read. Consumers have people like Reese Roberts at Serv Inc. and the teammates that we work with day to day to educate consumers. And consumers are seeking this knowledge. And this is the reason why I said risk or reputation risk is something that is going to lead to even greater risks because, excuse me, on a larger scale, okay, where we're going to start looking at claims, okay, claims that are sort of designed to bring these how do I say this? These prohibited acts. The claims that we're designing to bring prohibited acts to the forefront, that's additional risk. Not class action. I think companies believe that they have a right to a class action, but really you don't. What would it look like if there was a tidal wave of consumers flooding in to a corporation, okay, with claims that are individual claims, but now we understand how many people are coming to this organization. We're all coming as one with individual claims. These are things that cannot be avoided, and the risk associated with that, especially if the corporation continues to deny. Okay, you want to deny applications, you want to deny the expression of rights, you want to try to control or prohibit or restrict performance, okay, the right to perform in certain ways. If you want to, I don't know, maybe convince, or I should say, this sleight of hands. And I'll give you guys something that corporations really, really need to look out for, really. And this is something that eventually we will be um, offering corporate services. And I really think that corporations should consider hiring Serv Inc. Um, to make these things clear, okay? To go through your processes. If you are operating, okay, in a regulated industry, I would seriously consider hiring Serv Inc. to give you some of these red flags. Because if your manual does not cover it, it's going to be covered one way or another. Like I said, you don't want to be in the pool of people or corporations that are going to F around and find out. Consumers are coming with knowledge of law. And I'm talking about superior law, superseding law, common law, natural law, international law. It obliterates your corporate manual. It obliterates the way you think you're doing business. Natural rights, and I mean, you guys are spending probably millions of dollars collectively trying to hide these things from consumers so that they don't know. Well, the internet exists and consumers are on it. So I'm going to give you the thing. This is the thing. Security interest. Security interest is not a gift. Security interest is not a grant. Security interest is not transferable without consideration. And I want you to marinate on that if you're writing contracts, um, which are different than agreements. Security agreements are negotiable, they are for negotiation. If you're in the financial world, you know what I mean when I say that. And I'm talking directly to a finance manager, I'm talking directly to a treasury officer, TT&L, okay, corporate trustees. You see, a corporate trustee is thinking, I'm only dealing with the beneficiaries that I recognize. They're not thinking about the beneficiaries that have a right to make a claim. That's not going to fly. Having, okay, I understand that in your corporate position, okay, you don't have a fiduciary duty until that expression occurs. Your fiduciary duty kicks in at the point of expression. So, what are you going to do, okay, to please your investors when they have to split their money the long way amongst other beneficiaries who have expressed their position? What are you going to do when consumers start recognizing that they are beneficiaries to your corporate trust? What are you going to do? Um, I would suggest to start thinking about mutually beneficial ways to please everybody. You guys do something called structuring, where you can take a subprime, you can take a subprime loan bundled with a bunch of other subprime loans. And trust me, I'm not just getting this from the big short. Okay. And you go and you get it structured so that it has a triple A rating. I want to know how long, I mean, because I mean, I guess it's been lasting for long enough. And respectively or respectfully, it's been lasting long enough for the purpose of, or I should say, because of consumer ignorance. But the more consumers take an interest in securitization and securities, security agreements, okay, um, interest payments, How long do you think that will last? How long do you think that will last? To trick a person into gifting you something that literally cannot be given as a gift. And then you hook your claws into their entire lives, taking all forms of consideration for one transaction. How long can that last? How long can it last before consumers start to seek light? Consumers, when you are burying a seed of light, which would be the human psyche, okay, down into a deep level of darkness, how long do you think it's going to take for that seed to break through the ground and seek light, enlightenment? What is happening? Why am I in darkness? Why can I not survive? Why am I not feeling alive? Why? Because corporations are taking interest in parts of my life that they don't have an interest in. That is the darkness that consumers are making their way out of. And where's the light? Claims, consumer protection, expressing beneficial interest, expressing relationships, expressing rights, self-governing, privatizing. Okay. You guys will say, go get an attorney. That's like your safeguard. Anytime a consumer has a claim, go get an attorney. Oh my God, please go get an attorney. By all means, you need to have an attorney. And why? Why? Does everybody, why do the corporations always tell you, go get an attorney? Why do the judges always tell you, please go get an attorney? Why? Because the attorney is following the same manual. The attorney is following the same corporate bylaws. The attorneys are not there in the interest of law. They're there in the interest of enforcing a legal concept. That is not law. If an attorney tells me that I need to go ahead and send a payment or else I have not performed on my obligation, but that attorney does not know what constitutes a payment legally and lawfully, if it's not legal and lawful, that attorney is not helping me. That attorney is upholding a legal system that it has been trained, or that attorney has been trained to uphold. Has nothing to do with rights. It has everything to do with what. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a perfect example of the difference between legal and lawful. Okay, the difference between legal and lawful. I was at Marshall's with my son. We were shopping, and there was a woman that approached me while I was shopping, and she gave me an index card and asked me to. On the index card, I saw, um, she was asking me to purchase the items in her basket. Okay. Um, and she, was see, she seemed to speak limited English. She didn't do very much speaking. She just asked me, "Can you buy? Can you purchase? Can you buy?" And this woman appeared to be Middle Eastern, older woman. She appeared to be, um, foreign. And I kindly told her, "No, I won't. I won't be able to do that for you today." Um, and I just kept walking. So, me being the observant person that I am, I watched. And this woman approached the patrons in the entire store, everybody. She went to everybody. She didn't let not one person pass her that I could see. And she asked, "Can you buy? Can you purchase this for me?" So finally, while I was, making my way through the line, um, this is not before she came to me again. She actually asked me twice, could I purchase? And so as I made my way through the line, I found this woman did actually get someone to make the purchase for her. Okay, so my son and I were sitting outside of the store. We were taking a lift, and so we were waiting for the lift driver to approach, and um, we saw the woman come out of the store, and there were other women with index cards. Um, the women with the index cards, they all congregated. There were two children with them, about ages somewhere between 10 to 13. And the elder woman that had someone make the purchase for her, she gave the merchandise to the young boy and asked him to go put it in the car. Okay. So he ran to there was a van, a very nice van at that. And he put the merchandise that this woman had just bought for him or for them, and he put it in the van. Okay. Now I want you to follow me because there was nothing illegal that that woman did. Okay. But there's a point that I'm going to make. So I saw again the other women that had there were two other adult women, and they had the same index cards. And what it looked like to me was they were working the entire pavilion. Okay, the entire um, shopping area. They were in the parking lots, approaching people, asking for money outright, or just asking for purchases to be made. So I called the police and I told them that there were people loitering and soliciting, okay, in the area. And the police did come. But here's the reason why I want you to understand what's the difference between legal and lawful. If any of those women got those purchases and they got the receipt made, let's just say that woman made that purchase on a debit card. That lady that got the merchandise for free could easily take that lady's receipt back into the marshals and get the money in cash refunded to her off of that debit card purchase. Um, right at that point, this is where we consider it to be unlawful because at that point you stole from the woman. Now it was legal because she gave you her permission to do it. However, law states that permission cannot be given when coercion, okay, is an element of that transaction. If there's any amount of deception, unfair practice. What is unfair about what these women were doing? They created an illusion to compel people to give them voluntarily something that they would not have done had they known all the facts. When I left that parking lot, I looked back at the van where the young boy put the merchandise. The van had paper tags on it. It was a new car. It was a new van. It was, like I said, it was nice. It was one of those Honda like Odysseys, and it was nice. And so I'm like, tisk, tisk, tisk. That is unlawful for you to create an illusion of conditions in order to compel performance from a person. That's considered an unauthorized transaction. It's considered fraud. So while what she did may not have been like a lawyer would say, it's perfectly legal. It's legal, yeah, because she didn't steal that woman's debit card. And if she would have took the merchandise back to get a receipt, there's nothing illegal about that. But is it unlawful, okay, to create this illusion using deception? Yes, that is unlawful. To give rise to consent using deception, illusion, trickery. That's a scam. Okay. It's called a scam. It's a scheme. And so that's the reason why I call the police. And so, again, this is what I want consumers to know and what I want corporations to know. the schemes. It's unlawful, although you may have made it using Wizard of Oz, wizardry, illusions, smoke and mirrors, and tricks and deceptive wording. Okay. Your contracts are not legally binding for many reasons. For many reasons. If an attorney writes a contract for your corporation and that contract is written in legalese, that's an illusion. It's a foreign language that's written in English. That's an illusion. That can't be binding on a consumer. It's not fair. Why would you write a contract in Chinese if I speak English? Because essentially that's what it is when you write a contract in legalese. How many consumer contracts have the definition of what a security interest is and how security interest is negotiated and used for trade and deposit? How many corporations explain that? How many corporations give consumers an opportunity to read before they will even allow a signature? Why isn't there a mandated frame of time or time frame before a contract can be accepted? Why are consumers not encouraged to bring an advocate or some legal representation, someone to translate legalese before they can sign a contract? How come the contracts don't have definitions in them? Because security interest is a foreign term. It's legalese. What consumer knows what security interest is? It's an interest you're taking to secure a transaction. And it is a form of consideration, but how many consumers know what consideration is? How many consumers know the value of the security interest as a form of collateral? How many people know that? I'm going to go ahead and wrap up because I feel I've been talking for a long time. But again, in this episode of The Corporate Critic, I want to appeal to the senses of our corporate service providers and our government corporate service providers that, consumers are understanding what it means when you call them a citizen. And you turning the term sovereign citizen into some kind of insult is not deterring consumers from understanding that they are not, being a citizen of any um, state or being a citizen of any nation is a voluntary act. Citizenship is not um, something that can be forced on any person. And so to confer your powers based on you labeling automatically people to be citizens, and you want to sort of give the illusion that they cannot not be a citizen, uh, those things are, the time is running out on that time on that clock is running out. Okay, the buzzer is about to go off because consumers are not that stupid. Um, this stuff is written all over the place. It's written everywhere. Okay, self-determination is written in international law. I mean, it's written in our DNA. I don't have to be a citizen, especially in a place where, um, you know, I don't have any political affiliation. For example, people that look like me, y'all call us black. That that's not even real. It's not even real. But you guys will have entire provisions of law, your bylaws. Your bylaws will be used to govern, this fake concept, this social construct. Whereas if I was to get pulled over and a police officer says, um, we got a 140 black female, who are you talking about? Where's the black female at? Because I'm not black. I have never been black. There's no such thing as black in Any law, if you read any law, any, that's not a classification of a human, of a person, a man or woman. It's not a classification of a man or a woman, especially not their nationality. A nationality is a nation. Okay. So if I'm an Aboriginal American, you're calling me black. What is that? What are you saying about me if you're calling me black? What are you saying I am if you're calling me black when I am an Aboriginal, Indigenous, autochthonous American? Do you see my hair? First of all, Junebug is flourishing. Do y'all see my hair? This is my real hair. It's natural. And when I tell you something, it's not black hair. Do you see my mouth? Do you see my nose? Do you see the color of my skin? None of these things make me black because black does not exist. So the whole goal is for us to rein in on these things and make sure that we are using them to express ourselves in our own interfacing laws that do supersede what's written in a corporate manual. We have to interface. We have to strike terms. We have to create exhibits, addendums, memorandums, riders, allonge, okay, in order for us to express and enforce. So with that, I'm going to close my episode. You guys, I'm going to try my best to continue to, come and do these episodes so that we have, just a ongoing discussion. We are on Discord. The Serv Inc. If you type in Serv Inc. Private administrator, it's private admin. What is it? Serv. Oh Jesus! It's Serv Inc. Private admin support on Discord. So if you want to join us on Discord, you can feel free to do that. We also have a website, servincorporated.com. You have to spell the word incorporated all the way out. It's SERV Incorporated. You can find our consumer services there. I am developing and rolling out consumer surveys where you can participate in our mission to monitor, okay, the regulation of commerce. And that information will be used to make sure that we're enforcing things like security interests, beneficial interest. We're enforcing as a collective group, like I just said, the power to perform in certain ways. If a corporation does not want to allow it, then we will go around the corporation or we will eliminate the corporation because there's no way to survive without it, okay, without doing it. If we're going to use commerce, okay, it cannot be regulated by a privatized entity that's only doing it from their manual and not from the commercial code. Again, there's a difference. There's a huge difference. A bank is not a regulator. So their manual is not governing your transaction. The law, the commercial code is governing your transaction. So when you supersede using an allonge or your right to perform or whatever it is that you want to do, like I said, striking terms, creating affidavits, creating notices, creating exhibits, memorandums, whatever it is you want to use, whatever is applicable. Okay, if that corporation is not wanting to do that, we're going to be collecting information. And the information that we collect is going to be established for the purpose of assisting the United States with regulation. Because obviously, if the United States is outsourcing or turning a blind eye, okay, to the lack of compliance, allowing prohibited acts to occur with no consequence, with no remedy, these are things that we are responsible because we, the people, are sovereign. We, the people, give the power to the government to do what they're doing. So, Serv Inc. is in a position where we're using that sovereign power. We're using that data to make sure that if a consumer is experiencing prohibited acts where a corporation is circumventing, okay, or creating some illusion to rob a person from their interest in a transaction, like that lady at the Marshalls taking money off of people's debit cards by creating an illusion of poverty, creating an illusion of need so that giving can occur. We are not, I'm calling the police. I'm calling the police because we're not going for that. Not when we got people that are homeless. We got people that can't buy food. We have people that are having their transportation repossessed, lives thrown into the trash, cars being repossessed, homes being foreclosed. Okay, people living paycheck to paycheck when all they have to do is use a signature on your instrument. We that data, okay, is what we're after. So when those surveys come out, if you are a part of our community, um, sign up somewhere. Okay, you can submit any one of the inquiry forms that we have online. Purchase any product. We have digital downloads that are available for sale, which is study material. Mentorships where you can have group sessions where you'll be in group mentorships to do online discussion, unlimited level of online support by email, by chat, by Discord discussion, by mentorship. The mentorship includes two monthly group sessions and unlimited online support for anybody who wants to sort of dig in on these concepts of law. A lot of people are purchasing processes. So, one of the things I'm committed to doing as an educator is to help you get through your processes. If you're purchasing a process from somewhere and you have no idea what you're doing after you have purchased that process, a mentorship I think would be great for you because for the $150, you are able to get unlimited support and discussion, the capacity to discuss in an actual di- conversation with me, with the people who are learning, with my partners. We're all committed to teaching. I see a mutual benefit in teaching because the more people that know, the more it compels the corporations to comply for everybody. So it makes it easier on all of us when we all know because the demand will start to increase for these types of performances, for these types of agreements to be more commonplace and easier to express. Okay, the more people demand these things, the more corporations will include them in contracts, agreements, disclosures, okay, transactions, training at their offices. The more we demand these things, the more they will have to. If you are in the course of business in one day and you said, let's just say you normally only get 100 phone calls in a day at your office and or not well from your call in your call center and 89 of those 100 people are all asking you, how do you endorse this? What is your remittance address? Okay, eventually that corporation will have to make accommodation because let's just say all 89 of those people have stopped making payments in the traditional way and they want to endorse and they're going to endorse or else you're not going to get paid. Do you understand what I'm saying? So at that point, we recognize the power in our numbers, in our knowledge. These corporations have to start understanding you're not going to get no money if you're not complying with my right to give it to you and the way that I want to give it to you. You can't tell me that I got to pay you out of pocket when I can pay you with my interest in this transaction. Because if you try to take my interest in the transaction, you can consider yourself paid anyway. If you take it, because I'm going to come back and say that I didn't give you that voluntarily. That was not a gift, it was not a grant or a donation. A corporation don't have no problem with telling you that they're not gifting you anything. You are obligated to pay me. I am not relieving you of your obligation. Oh, well, guess what? You're no longer relieved of your obligations either. Okay. You've been getting away with it for long enough. And if I had a good mind to go back and dig in the crates, I would go back into the archives and figure out how much money you owe me because you cloaked the agreement that I've been performing on this all this time. So anyway, Serv Inc. is definitely here to help you find those illusions in your contracts, helping you to draft up your documents, your affidavits, your notices, um, your disputes, your federal reports, helping you to fill out forms, applications, constructing any kind of claim. If you are being sued, we will help you to construct a counterclaim for which relief can be granted. Okay, because people are getting their cases dismissed left and right for failure to state a claim for which relief can be granted. Okay, we will help you. We are not attorneys. We do not provide any legal services or legal representation. However, we do perform document preparation. We do perform research. We do know the laws, and we will help you to find them and express them. Okay. So, with that being said, my name is Reese Roberts, and this podcast is called The Corporate Critic. I will appreciate if you share this content and let your friends know, let your corporate friends know. Um, let it be a message, okay, because you're going to be hearing it more and more from this office and from the place where the soapbox that I stand on. It is an ongoing concept, an ongoing message, an ongoing mission that we will monitor, okay, the regulation of commerce in order to assist the United States. And we're going to do that by helping consumers. Okay, we're going to do that by talking to you, by asking you for information and asking for your participation in the building of our database. The building of our database is extremely important. And it is secure. So you can feel free to disclose as much as you want about how corporations have been contracting with you, because we're going to use that. Okay, we're going to pack a powerful punch and become a juggernaut in the regulatory space. Okay, private, not public. Okay, Serv Inc. is a private organization. We do not have anything to do with the government. Okay, nothing. This is just me and my people doing what we do, serving a mission. Okay, in order to educate you and to help us ourselves. Okay, I'm doing this because I see the reason to do it. I see a reason to do it because at some point my son is going to be my age. And if I don't do anything to make sure that he's not in survival mode his whole life, I didn't do my job. And so that is the mutual benefit. Me helping you is me helping myself, is helping my son and his children and yours. Because the more you know, the more you grow. And the more I feel like if your children are not in survival mode, that's helping my son. Because my son gonna need somebody to marry. My son is gonna need people to work with when he gets older. My son is gonna need a society of contributors if he's gonna be one himself. He's gonna have to work with your children. My baby's gonna have to be around people that got some sense, some people that know the law, because I'm his mama. I'm his mother. And that's the world that I intend to leave for him as I make my exit, as I make my rounds, and then do my bow on the world stage to go ahead and, you know, do whatever I'm going to do in the next life. Okay. That's my mission. So, again, the corporate critic, please share. Please visit us online at servinc.com. If you'd like to speak to me or one of my representatives, you can call, I should say, one of our representatives. You can call 888-899-9372. Or you can email me at reese@servincorporated.com. Remember, the word incorporated is spelled fully. Okay. Peace and blessings, you guys. I do hope that you will find this episode and other episodes to be, edification to your life. And again, share the content. Bye bye.